Hey everybody, it's Durger time. Thank you for joining me once again for another episode of Ring of Honor Resurrected. We are here ready for Best in the World. We have some storylines going into this, so I'm hopeful that we can pull some things off. My main concern, obviously, is just those financials of, are we going to get some pay-per-view money for this show? The last one we did was in May, and we got nothing. And not really sure why. So I'm going to pay careful attention to that, because that is something that is concerning. Granted, we ended up breaking exactly even, pretty much, more or less, the last time. So, not the end of the world, but certainly something to keep in mind as we go into this. So let's go ahead and let's get on over to the show. All right, before we get into the show, let's just check to see if there's any news. Doesn't really look like it. Sasha Banks looking to maybe move abroad, and to save she's still with WWE. So I guess technically she might still be right now. Obviously some weirdness with her contract in the real world right now going on. So certainly something to keep a look at. Not that I think we could grab her, but it might be something that AEW might look at in the future. Okay, so we have a show to put on. We're going to try to put it in the Mid-Atlantic because we need that rating to pop for our main one. We're at 40 now, so we actually moved up a little bit. Moving up pretty consistently, about 1 to 2 a month. We had a big jump between June to July, though. And I think we're going to try to keep that momentum going by putting on a really successful pay-per-view there. We need to have a 59 by the end of the year within that area, as well as a 35 at either the Southeast or the Tri-State area, which we already have accomplished. Tri-State's at 41 right now, so we really just need to get our home territory of the Mid-Atlantic up to 59. That's a big leap, but maybe with some successful pay-per-views, some big wins, it's something we could do. All right, let's go ahead. Let's move on to the show. I guess quickly we'll run down what we have planned from the last episode. Obviously, we set up the Bucks and FTR and the Briscoes having sort of a three-way brawl. So they're going to have that triple threat tag match. The Righteous had defeated the Young Bucks. I'm probably not going to have them on the pay-per-view because we're really, unless we have a random challenger, we don't really have anyone set up for the six-man. Something we're going to have to build up going forward. Jordan Grace obviously moving into a feud with Mercedes Martinez, which I still don't know how it's going to go. Jay Lethal versus Samoa Joe, obviously getting built up. Wheeler Yuta with a 2 out of 3 falls match versus Tracy Williams for the pay-per-view. Willow getting a match against Deonna Purrazzo. Lio Rush getting a no DQ match with a Bandito. And then we have some other, story beats that are in there as well. And some of them not super fleshed out yet, that are more like intermediary storylines. So that is sort of the plan for Best of the World. Let's go ahead and see how it shakes out. All right. Locker room controls. We do not have to open form anymore, so we can do a medal. We can try to... maybe not. Is Gresham not here? I was going to say, we could try to improve Gresham's feelings. John Gresham's working Terminus tonight, so... you sons of... Cash and Dax are working AAA. We can't have them in the damn match that we were planning to do tonight. That's annoying. To be fair, I should have looked at that. I didn't think about that. That's a very, very annoying. I wish you could, in this game, just pay them to no show there and come here instead. Right now, how the game works is basically if there's multiple places a person's booked, they will go to the place that has the highest prestige, highest size. So AAA is definitely going to win out every day of the week. They're going to get a higher payday there. That is very annoying. Very, very annoying. But we can always manage. We can always put that on the next Ring of Honor show, but not ideal. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's meddle. Gresham, we didn't have plans this week anyways, and maybe a run-in. Let's see if there's anybody we can get a positive relationship with here in the locker room. Everything succeeding in creating a strong friendship. Well, we can certainly try that. I don't know if that's going to be that helpful to us, but it ain't going to hurt. Okay. There we go. No broadcaster has been set. Okay. Here's what we got to really pay attention to. We want it to be HBO Max. That is selected. They are the exclusive for USA. Their showings abroad, mostly in England. What is fights looking like? Very small in those areas. A little bit more. I think we chose this last time, and I'm not sure if I want to select multiples. I'm going to just select HBO. Yes, that's fine. So, and because last time we added all three, I thought, and maybe that did something weird. So we'll just run those, and that should be okay. We are going to be in the Mid-Atlantic. We're expecting about a little over 1,000 people here. We will have to figure out where we want to be. Probably not the Bojangles Coliseum. Might end up being Benton, which is in North Carolina. 1,000 capacity, $1,000. That sounds about right. So we're gonna have a sellout. We're gonna get a little bit less people there. Is there another one that we can go a little bit higher? I kind of want to eke out as much as we can get. Yeah, like maybe this one. 2,500 people, just so we can get as many people in the building as we can, because it may be higher. This is expected revenue or expected audience. I know there's a bonus for selling out, but I'd rather get a few more people in the arena, and I'm willing to spend a little bit extra for it. So just to get more popularity, more focus, and that's kind of the focus there. All right, we got a show. We got to call an audible and figure out what to do with the FTR match. And that I don't know. I think we just save it for another match instead of doing like just a regular Young Bucks and Briscoes. But maybe we don't. Maybe we make it into a storyline that they got like, locked up or something. I don't know. Well, their flight was delayed on purpose because one of the Young Bucks changed their flight times or something stupid. I think we just move on to the triple threat on a regular show. And we'll just have to really be aware of those conflicts in the future, because that'll come up a lot, I think. That's a big bummer. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's book the show and see if we can kind of salvage from that mistake. Alright guys, we are back for Best in the World, trying to make do with what we can. We got 188 minutes completely booked, as well as a bunch of pre-show segments. Let's go ahead and get into it and see what we have going on. Obviously, we couldn't have FTR on the show, so we had to kind of make do with some pre-show build for that triple threat. But I think overall, the show came out pretty okay. We'll see if it ends up doing as well as I hope, but we'll see. So we start the pre-show off with the Gun Club versus Kenny King, Josh Woods, and Silas Young. It's kind of just a random match to get a bunch of people on the show. Building up the Gun Club because they're probably going to be the first main competitors for the six-man title, I would think. So giving them a win here made sense. Billy Gunn pins Josh Woods. Everybody does okay. Kenny King, Josh Woods, and Silas Young definitely the better in-ring performers here. Gets us to a 49, so, that's about what we expected there. We have I hadn't done this, went too long for a comedy bout. Interesting. I haven't tried a comedy match in Ring of Honor, so I wanted to see what we could get out of it. Cabana obviously is a noted comedy performer, and I figured Cheeseburger would be okay at it. Overall, the match doesn't do great. We get only a 34. It went on too long. It was an 11-minute comedy match. So I need to know that it needs to be much shorter. But I wanted to test it out. I also wanted to put Colt Cabana on the show. I wanted to put Cheeseburger on the show. So putting them in a pre-show in a comedy match seemed right. Ultimately, it's not going to affect us one way or the other. So it was a good experiment. And then we have Jay Briscoe versus Nick Jackson in a hell of a singles match, actually. I should have just put this on the show, but become much better score than what we're probably going to have. It's Superb Wrestling, great heat. We gain heat for the storyline, and ultimately we gave them an exhibition match together against each other. Nick Jackson defeats Jay Briscoe. This leads to a big blow-up brawl between both teams. Obviously they were ringside, kind of looking on. Has to be broken up by staff and building up towards that feud that we're going to try to pay off on the next Ring of Honor because we couldn't get FTR on the show. We start the show proper with a rematch between Bandito and Lio Rush. It's a no DQ match that gets a little bit hectic. It's interesting that this had some penalties here with drifting of psychology. So that is interesting. Obviously, we still have this penalty with the Bandito Chavo Guerrero divide. We're doing like a rubber match thing. So Blackheart defeats Bandito in this match, gets a handful of tights, cheats to win a little bit. It was going to lead to another match with Bandito. In ring performance, Bandito was a 70, Lio Rush was a 58, gets us a 57. A lot of penalties here, so there were times where definitely lacked of psychology on display, which is interesting. This was a work the crowd match, so I really didn't think that should matter, but it did, which is interesting. I've never seen that for that type of match, so that is very interesting. The Chavo Bandito relationship, I'm not going to turn Chavo because we're probably going to remove Chavo from Bandito's managerial role soon enough. And then Lio Rush did take a stump bump in the match. Got the show to a strong start anyways. It's 57. It's not too bad. I'm just a little shocked by how much negative there was there. We got the very personal match between Wheeler Yuta and Tracy Williams. 2 out of 3 falls matches, and in a shock apparently with 2 straight falls, Wheeler Yuta defeats Tracy Williams, wins back the Ring of Honor Pure title. We gain heat for this storyline. Both of them were about even at 65, which makes sense. They're tag partners. Gets us a 62 overall. Pretty good match. A very strong technical match, I think, was set up as a technical masterclass. So paced well, done well. Wheeler gets the title back, finally beats his former tag partner. We have a nice moment afterwards that only got a 42, but that's okay. We do end the storyline between the two of them. Wheeler finally bests Tracy Williams in a grueling match. He's bloody and beaten. He holds up the Pure title, kind of is kneeling on the ground, tired. Tracy comes up to confront him, but offers him a hand to help him up. And the two hug, finally kind of making up a little bit. Obviously, they're still on different sides of the fence, but they kind of put their differences aside. They're not heel, they're not face, right? They're friends, and they're able to kind of share in that moment together as we finally see Wheeler surpass Hot Sauce here. And ending this story, the pure title back in Wheeler's hands. For how long, we don't know. It is an alliance title, so that could change at a whim. We have Flip Gordon versus Tony Nese, a admittedly underdeveloped story. We might continue to build up. This was an opportunity to build Tony Nese up, and we tried to. Tony Nese had a 55, Flip had a 53. Had a 53, and ultimately did gain heat for this storyline of the professional wrestler. We had Tony kind of abusing people. Flip Gordon said, if you want to abuse anybody, abuse me. And Flip loses in this match very quickly in 5 minutes, gets submitted by Tony Nese, showing that he is the professional wrestler. Flip had a big talk, big game, but ultimately is quickly dispatched by Tony Nese. Got the crowd hotter. He's getting better as gimmick. Gets us ultimately a 49 for this match. Afterwards, we have a really bad post-match. So this is one of the problems. We might need to get Tony Nese a better mouthpiece, which is something we might be looking for in the future, because Smart Mark doesn't really do a great job here in terms of adding charisma. Tony Nese is a negative black hole of entertainment charisma, or pretty much anything for any angle. So we really need somebody that can be absolutely superb in his in their microphone work. That's something we're going to have to be looking for going forward, to maybe remove Mark Sterling and give somebody else an opportunity to be a mouthpiece for Tony Nese, because he's good in the ring, but when we try to do anything storyline wise, it really suffers, as we see here with this 36, in which Tony Nese stands on top of Flip Gordon, 1 foot on his chest, standing in defiance of the injured, submitted Flip Gordon, saying, yes, I am better than you. You thought you were basically going to try to come up here and show me up, and you did not. We lose some heat with this segment. Unfortunately, it just does not land well because of the event horizon surrounding Tony Nese sucking in all charisma and leading to a very lackluster segment. Deonna Purrazzo versus Willow Nightingale. Deonna Purrazzo, a very short-lived storyline here, where basically she came in here and was upset that she wasn't on the show, and Willow Nightingale's like, well, I'll fight you. And Deonna Purrazzo was like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever, this will be easy. And that ego, it gets the better of Deonna Purrazzo, because Willow Nightingale defeats her in 19 minutes with a pinfall, with a fast roll-up. She doesn't quite get her with a definitive finish, because we're kind of beginning this here. I probably should have set this up as a story, because I think we might do some more with both of them. This is a 46. Deonna definitely is a better wrestler. Willow was able to get a 39. I think we can get Willow there, but she needs higher popularity. So having a big win against the former Impact Knockouts champion seemed like a good opportunity. Obviously, also the former Ring of Honor Women's champion. To have a good win there. Fast roll up, so Deonna's not too upset about it. And we maybe start a feud, but we want to move Willow into a more prominent position, but we need to get her there first. Overall, a 46 for the purpose of developing that, I'm pretty happy with. Afterwards, we try to do a little storyline segment, and it doesn't do very well. It's just saying that Willow sneaks the win in, and then Deonna rages and pounds the mat, looking like a spoiled brat. Again, not a great rating. I forget what we had them set at, probably entertainment or charisma. Apparently neither, doing particularly well there. Joe Hendry versus Dalton Castle, with the stipulation that if Joe Hendry wins, Dalton Castle can never challenge him again. Joe Hendry's often been having issues with just Dalton Castle and wanting to move beyond him and kind of end him, put him away, declare himself the most entertaining wrestler in Ring of Honor, declare Dalton Castle as old news, and has been using his bodyguard, Gazim Salmani, as sort of a buffer to level it out. Well, Hendry manages to use Gazim once again. Gazim does show up. He was not supposed to be ringside, but he managed to sneak in after a ref got knocked out, and ended up interfering with the match and allowing Joe Hendry to get a win over Dalton Castle, which now means that Dalton obviously cannot challenge him again, even though it was a slimy finish. Joe Hendry continues to snake his way up the card as we try to continue to build him. Ultimately, we want him to be more popular. We want to build him up to a star. He's got great charisma. He would do very well for us, but we need to get him there. And moving him beyond his Dalton Castle storyline into maybe the upper mid card is going to be our opportunity to that. His in-ring performance is weaker now, but he will improve as we kind of build his popularity. So we're kind of investing in him there. Got the crowd hotter, though, ultimately. They were turned off by the finish of the match, which is fine. Gets a little bit of a penalty there, but we still get 54, which is pretty solid. Afterwards, we just have an after-match report just talking about Dalton getting distracted by Gazim, losing the match, and no longer can challenge Hendry. Gazim has this alliance here where he's kind of working for Hendry. It's going to be a very Wardlow-esque situation, I think, with Joe Hendry, as he's kind of going to kind of build him up almost as Ring of Honor's MJF in some capacity, where we have this big muscle that is much more talented than Hendry in this situation in terms of in-ring performance, but is kind of stuck in this uneasy alliance and probably going to be continue to be disrespected by Hendry and unappreciated, which will eventually blow up. This gives us a 52. Then afterwards, we have Daniel Garcia, our World Television Champion, coming out offering a 20-minute challenge for anyone who wants the World Television Championship, but warns it will be violent and a bloody fight. It only wants the best of the best. Lee Moriarty decides to step up to this challenge. Garcia is now the representative of Suzuki-gun in America, and he's standing here with Suzuki. This gets a 45. We have the match itself, which is okay. It's a 55. It's not too bad. Poorly placed. We need something to cool the crowd down, which is unfortunately not this. So another technical match that kind of is maybe too much for this crowd. It slows down the pace of the show a little bit. Daniel Garcia does defeat Lee Moriarty after 20 minutes with a sharpshooter, though, making defense number 2 of his title. Afterwards, he basically says that he's not impressed by the challenges or the locker room, wants a real vicious competitor, somebody who can really bring that strong style approach that Suzuki's known for to really represent the strength and power of pro wrestling, and is confronted by our IWGP US champion Kenta, who stares him down. So we're building towards a feud between the two of them. Gets us a 55. So not too bad. We continue to gain some heat for Daniel Garcia's storyline as he kind of becomes this little badass for us in Ring of Honor. We have our women's division championship match between Jordynne Grace versus Mercedes Martinez. One I really wasn't sure where I wanted to go with. Ultimately, I have Jordynne Grace defeat Mercedes Martinez in 20 minutes, hoping that this gives Jordynne Grace the big push we need to move her up in popularity and up in the card. She's already, I think, set at recognizable or well-known, so moving her up further would benefit her, and ultimately we're kind of limited in what we can do with Mercedes Martinez in terms of storyline and interest. It felt like a right opportunity to switch the titles over, move it to Jordynne Grace, and ultimately have a fairly okay match. I mean, a 45 for Jordynne Grace, 48 for Mercedes Martinez. We're still looking for somebody in the women's division that can get us a 50 plus, ideally. But overall, the match is okay. Got the crowd buzzing, which is always nice. And we have a new World Women's Champion, one who's been pretty dominant so far, so it makes a lot of sense. Afterwards, we just have a segment with her standing tall with the Women's Championship. And then for our main event, we have Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal for the world titles. 25-minute match. Jay Lethal makes the upset win against Samoa Joe with lethal injection after falling from interference from Sanjay Dutt. Fans turned off by the finish a little bit, which does impact it. Jay Lethal with a 55, Joe with a 60. Is the story done? Probably not. But we have a stand out as Jay Lethal returns as Ring of Honor World Champion, defeating Joe by some shady means. And, ultimately, he did remove the foundation from the fray, but he did not think about Sanjay Dutt, and that cost Joe. Obviously, we're not done with this feud, but Jay Lethal gets a surprise upset win to close the show because it's a 51, which is okay. Final segment just kind of talking about the win. Lethal stealing it, running with the belt. Samoa Joe's left with Sanjay Dutt in the ring, decides to attack him and brutalize him, end up throwing him through a table to end the show because it's a 54. Overall, a mixed bag. I'm thinking we're probably going to be around a 55 for the show. 49, actually a little bit worse than we expected, but that is okay. Ultimately, we should have put Nick Jackson and Jay Briscoe on the main show in the main event, but we have these other matches that we needed to put in, and that ultimately we are trying to build these guys up, not just have these established stars. If we had the triple threat, I think it would have been a different story, but unfortunately we did not have that. But overall, we still increased our popularity in 48 regions, so not too bad. No one was upset about anything, so, again, just giving people some props where needed. Tracy William, praise for a great performance. Everyone was basically fine. We'll do Willow, too. No one had any problems with the booking, so it was not a big deal. All right, let's check our mail here real quick. Viewing figures, 463,000 people watched it. I'm just curious. Still no pay-per-view revenue. Don't know why. It might just be set up with how this is broadcasted. This is a subscription service, I believe, right? HBO, what are you? Internet subscription services owned by. We should be getting something from it. It's very weird. Not sure why it's doing that. Not a big deal, though. Ultimately, though, pretty good show. I think that's going to give us some good momentum there. And we're just going to have to really make sure that we're looking at the availability of people going forward, because that was certainly a bummer. Interesting that we were able to get Bandito, that he was willing to come over. Same thing with Deonna Purrazzo, but Dash and Cash were not. So that is certainly an odd one. We might have to look at Saturdays, look relatively free. So for the next pay-per-view, that is something we're going to have to look at. I think the next one we have is not for a bit. It's in August. Glory by Honor, Night 1 and Night 2. So it's a 2-night event, back-to-back. So we should be okay there. But we're going to have that triple threat tag match on our next episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling. But that is it for me today. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next time.